Hi guys, so I have not done a video for Sanguine yet. So first off, definitely I want to mention that we did not time this run. However, the main reason I actually wanted to use this run is because I feel like I was very happy with my own personal play. And Sanguine has definitely been a dungeon where I have felt intimidated to heal it. But honestly, after this run, I feel fairly confident about it. And healing this run is definitely made way easier if you have DPS that actually use utility and don't play ultra selfish. So we did not use Discord for this run. And I'm pretty sure the reason for that is because three of the people in the party are Chinese, and based on personal experience, they usually do not want to get on Discord, or if they do, they don't really talk much, and that might be understandable just because their English might not be very strong. But that was actually one main point that really pissed me off this run, is that because we didn't communicate, there were several times throughout the dungeon where they wanted to use invis pots, and my pot was always down, most likely because of my mana potion, I think. So this Boomy gave me Innervate like maybe one time the whole fucking dungeon, which is garbage, by the way. I would say that if you're a class that has a spell like that, you should use it whenever you think is best. I don't think it's hard to know when to use it. Just anytime where the healer is spam healing a lot, just use it. It's like, as Shadow, I don't wait for my fucking healer to tell me when to use Vampiric Embrace. I just use it because I know it's helpful to them. But this is a point of complaint that I have all the time for players, so this is not new. And that Mist Dancer, what do you call it? Image that just hit me from behind, definitely did not notice that or see it. Honestly, this Mist Dancer thing, I don't pay very much attention to it just because I play range, right? And for the most part, whenever in the past they were kiting back towards us ranged, I was like, what? I wasn't really sure why they were coming closer, but now obviously I'm more familiar. In regards to this first hallway, obviously we always do the first big pull. I'm also very glad that they did not decide to use heroism on the first pull, because for some groups that I've done in the past for Fortified, for a key like a 20, they want to use hero on the first big trash pull just because you can get one extra heroism use out of it. And I would say that normally that's okay, but you need to be with a group that's very familiar with doing a route like that and a strategy like that, because that makes this first boss longer. And this first boss can be very difficult to heal if it's prolonged without having heroism. So you need really high DPS, and you pretty much, I would not do that strategy in a pug, because a lot of people don't do these mechanics properly for the first boss. Sometimes people don't soak properly, or they don't use their fucking immunity. Like some rogues for this boss don't even use evasion on the charge. They just make everyone eat the damage. Charge damage is something that ideally you want to mitigate as much as possible, because healing through Severing Smash really sucks. But if you have a charge that happens right before it, and then needing to AoE heal up the orbs and all of that, is just, it's just a lot. So the interrupts here for this area with the ticks were really awful. You don't want them to channel for much at all, because every time they channel, they get stacks, and then when they die, they pop for a lot. That's how the warrior died. So on this next pull, you're going to see that the warrior did not use his interrupt for a long fucking time, which is not right, in my opinion. As a melee, your interrupt should pretty much always be on cooldown. Like, there's three of them. That one's just channeling. He's just like, well, let me fucking DPS, do my like 13k DPS. Let's not interrupt at all because it's not important. That warrior is actually someone that I've done a group, or I've done a key with, and just not really. I have a lot of complaints about people, because some people have like really weird desires in this game, but whatever. Um, yeah, I'd say this first area is okay. In the past, I have done, what do you call it? The MC trick where you mind control them off the edge. I actually think so. Basically, the way it works is when you mind control and walk them off, they die immediately and you get credit for them. However, I will just say that I am not 100% sure how it works now because I've tried it a couple of weeks ago. I tried it on a 20, and the reason I did that was because a few days prior to that 20, I did two freaking Sanguine Depths 20s, and I did that trick, and it worked. But I think one of the most important things that I did not realize at the time is that I need to tag the mob. So I think that was the main differing factor. I thought that maybe we just needed to tag the mob because the very first time we did it, we weren't getting full percent. And I think it's because people did not damage the mob at all. They were just like, okay, you're gonna MC it off the cliff. Let's not touch it at all. So I think the priest, I just have to tag it at least with any source of damage, a purge or something, and then it should work. Another thing that I'm trying to get much better at doing when it comes to these bosses and having pride is the fact that since your mana regen is basically infinite while you have pride, I want to get used to using Shadow Mend. I want to like spam Shadow Mend more, right? While I have the buff, because the heal is really, really strong. And anytime there's AoE healing moments like this, while I have pride, I want to just make sure I heal people up faster, right? I don't need to spend time using Radiance too much because I can just mend people up and not worry about the mana it costs. The main reason you wouldn't want to spam the Shadow Mend is because you're worried about how mana inefficient it is. But while you have pride, you don't have that to worry about. Another thing on this boss that I want to comment on as a mage, because mages are OP, and there are so many mages that I play with, or you play with in pugs, that don't even play their class to the maximum of what they can do. And it's terrible, actually. I hate playing with mages that are mediocre. And so, for example, on this boss, as a mage, you can alter time, and then you can blink down the hall towards the doorway, and then not spawn an orb and not take damage, and then you alter back to your original destination. And alter time is a 1-minute fucking cooldown, so you can do it at least, I don't know, once this boss. I don't know how long that boss took. It's usually like a minute 50. So you can probably get just one use out of it, but that by itself is so good. And actually, I don't think I even looked to see if this mage alter timed, but he probably didn't. There's just so many mages that never use that cooldown at all. And as a healer, I hate it because they can fucking full heal themselves every minute and they don't do it. By the way, it's not on GCD. So I can cast it in between my casts and it does not disrupt my DPS whatsoever. But you know what? Screw it. Let me just be a mindless, brainless DPS and not even use one of the best spells in my arsenal. For these mobs, the Wicked Oppressors, those can sometimes get out of hand if people are really garbage with interrupts. That magic debuff it ticks pretty hard. So I love being Disc, obviously, for that reason, because having Master Spell is amazing. Surprisingly, I would say the interrupts for those packs managed to be pretty good, because I don't remember any moment in this dungeon where it felt like my dispels were falling behind, or like people were dying and taking from the damage. But yeah, I don't know. I felt really on point this dungeon, and aside from the occasional annoyance of not being able to drink easily because of Spiteful, as you just saw, yeah, I'd say this run, for the most part, went fairly smoothly. Yeah, we didn't ever have any full wipes. I guess it's just like all these little things that ended up happening that really delayed our time. we were basically over by like a full minute. Oh, yeah, stupid volcanic interrupted my mass dispel. So I just decided, screw it, I'll dispel one person and I'll let the tank sit with the debuff. Oh, and just by the way, another comment, because just after this moment, we're gonna be skipping across the bridge. Yeah, honestly, I'll say that I would say that people should not assume things ever, right? So yes, there's a lot of times where you pug runs in these dungeons, but if people don't communicate something ahead of time, and something like my invis potion is down, I would say, yeah, it's not my fault, because everyone has a different fucking route. You should not expect everyone to have the same route, or you should not always expect a skip. I pretty much, as a healer, I play where my mana potion I use all the time. So since there are usually very few moments where I get to drink a lot, I'd say if I'm ever at like 50% mana, I'll just use a healing potion just to tide myself over and start the cooldown. So we did 3 skips, I think, in this dungeon, and like 2 times my fucking pot was down, and they acted like I was some imbecile because I wasn't prepared for their non-fucking communication. So that definitely does discourage me from ever wanting to do more keys with people who just like, it doesn't even have to be non-English speakers, just anybody that behaves that way, acts like that you can read their mind. Never feel bad about not being prepared if they do not communicate something beforehand, because this is a team game, and as a team, like every team-based thing in the fucking world, you literally talk about your strategy beforehand. But I guess gamers think that we're all mind readers or something. We're all fucking psychic. Yeah, so if I'm ever in a group with a boomkin, I will tell them ideally to innervate me for the first half, right? Because I've told you guys before, I always boon the second half. And actually, this pride died really fast. So there were a couple prides that died fast, and I feel like I didn't need to boon. But sometimes I'm so used to using boon, and I usually make sure that my cooldown is ready for boon. So if I don't end up using it for pride, I'm like, shit, like where do I use it now? Obviously I can just use it on the next pack, but it's just not something that I'm used to. There are still a lot of mages that don't combust prides, and that just doesn't make any sense, because by the time the pride is dead, like if you combust at the start of pride, just based on my personal experience with my mage, cooldown on combust can be like a minute, and then as you're casting in the next group, it'll pretty much nearly be up in the middle of the next group. Like, I guess some people don't understand that cooldown, you don't ever want to hold it. Like, that's the only time, for some reason, like I don't think I've ever experienced playing a class with a cooldown like that much in the past, but I feel good about using combust, and some people just are so particular about their cooldowns that they want it to be used at the perfect moment. But no, mages, if they have combust up, even if a boss is coming up, just use combust, because you will most likely have combust up for a portion of heroism. Does not need to be up at the start of heroism, as long as you use it during the buff at all. For these packs over here, the research scribe, I like to put him on focus because I want to see who he's throwing books at. That way I can precast the heal on them. And I would say they're pretty much the main annoying mob in this area. There is also, I think, the curse explosive anger. That is First off, a cast you would ideally want to interrupt, but if you do not, that has to be decursed. It basically puts a circle around you, and after it expires, you explode for a lot of damage. On Fort, it will most likely one-shot you, unless you have some sort of cooldown up. And then you can see that that mob is like dropping shit on the ground, so you kind of have to kite stuff back a little bit. But yeah, see, another reason... Wait, who casted that? It was a research scribe, right? I think so? Yeah, I think so. Because every time I put him on focus, I see where the explosive vellum is placed. So that is just basically the orange swirly that's on the ground that you want to move out of. So me seeing where it's placed ahead of time is also really good. So I know where the circle is going to get placed ahead of time. And kind of want to comment on something. I apologize if I sound like I'm very bitter about playing with these pubs, but I'm sure everyone can relate in how the expectation or just like the mentality of the people that play this game. I personally think it's all gamers across all games. Any multiplayer game, I feel like everyone behaves somewhat similar. Like, just the attitude and the mentality across any game. Dota, this, League, Valorant, any of it, they're all the same. The moment something doesn't go perfect, someone freaks out in person, and then they like don't know how to handle their anger, so they just like type shit in chat, and like they leave the group, they leave the party, all of these stupid things. And then with keys, with runs like this, the fact that people expect success without using Discord, obviously you can be successful without Discord, but you are already putting yourself at a disadvantage by choosing not to use it, right? So if you are okay with doing something, I'd say competitive, and being okay with putting yourself at a disadvantage, you need to accept failure. And I don't think people fucking understand that concept at all. They just think, wow, this person's bad. That's all they think. They think about just blaming other people. And I actually think for games like this, one of the most important things is like looking at the scenario first, right? So if I choose to do a key, like if I choose to do a 19 nowadays, I don't feel like being on Discord for 19s. But also nowadays, I don't even want to do keys that seriously anymore, because doing keys with any pub is really unappealing for me. So for example, my friend, he had a 21 Sanguine depths last week. It was tyrannical last week, but that doesn't mean shit to me. I don't care if it's tyrannical or fortified. And he queued it for a while. He said he had like some 2,100 people that queued up, 2 people in the group, and that's actually very unappealing to me, to do keys with people that have a higher score. It's hard to find that balance, because obviously higher score means people that are more experienced, but that doesn't mean their attitude is better. That doesn't mean their expectations are better. It could also mean that their expectations are so high that they also expect you to do shit that people they play with do, which isn't true either, because they obviously take these Mythic Plus more seriously. They probably spend more time doing it. And yes, if they're more serious about their score, they're potentially more likely to get angry over shit. It just doesn't sound like a really good situation to me. So overall, I guess what I can say is just that, like, I've just been kind of queuing once in a while, but the desire to consistently push isn't really there anymore, which is good, actually, because I still feel the same way about this game as I usually do. I don't feel good about playing this game oftentimes. I think my hatred for Blizzard just runs really, really deep. So I'm kind of surprised that I'm still playing this game at this time. I wish I could be playing other games, but oh well. I want to comment one thing. So the boss just started. Let's talk about the boss. The Boomy there melded the Cascade, and he did take 1 point of damage from it. So you can actually meld it fast enough to take 0 damage. And I'm going to do that on the next one. But this boss, yeah, right here, just do it ultra fast and you take 0 damage. This boss is like requires good DPS, obviously. I don't know if I would say that you need to hold cooldowns for the ad. It really depends on who is using cooldowns, I guess. Wait, why did we not hero this? Wait, what? What? I just fucking noticed this. Why did we not hero? Oh my goodness. Holy shit. Okay. After I'm done recording this, I'm gonna go check and see if this guy literally only used heroism 2 fucking times in this dungeon. Because if that's the case, that's a big contributor to why we're not timing it. Because I was actually very confused how we were close-ish to timing it. A minute's pretty decent, but we never wiped. And wow, I am blown away. I'm so blown away. Wow. Sorry. Very, very astonished, actually. For the Castigate cast, that boss fight was really short. I didn't get to talk about it much. I would say that if anyone has a defensive, obviously they should be using it, right? So if I get targeted when I'm Shadow, I cast Dispersion if my meld is down. If you're a mage, Ice Block it, or Gasp, fucking Alter Time it. Oh my gosh. Actually, if you Alter Time it, your healer pretty much doesn't even need to look at your fucking health bar if you do that. But that's a little hard for people to press. Just like it's hard for this Boomkin to press Innervate more than once. Like, I think the only time he casted it on me is if I typed mana in party because I was and it's not even like I was asking for Innervate. I was just notifying the tank because nobody, yeah, like if you play healer, nobody gives a fuck about you. Tanks don't give a fuck about you, which is surprising, right? Because you are the sole reason they stay alive. They don't even look to see what your mana bar is like, or like, yeah, they just do their own thing. A lot of people just pretty much do their own thing, expect you to heal them through anything while they tunnel, and that's just wrong. It's never that way. Something that I will say that was extremely helpful for me this run that I don't think I've seen a mage do before, because most mages, if they have a macro that announces their combust, it announces it the moment they use it. But this guy, he had a macro that like let you know a couple seconds ahead of time that he was going to combust soon. So that made it very easy for me to cast it on him. And I do have Omni CD there, so you can see that I can tell when he uses it. But obviously, like right now, see? I noticed late. Yeah, I didn't even cast PI on him at this time. Because like, I was holding it for him, and then he used it and I didn't notice. And that just sucks, because then that means I'm holding PI for even longer and not being as efficient with the cooldown, which is a very, very strong cooldown. So that definitely sucks. So the stone skin thing, every time I see it cast, I always wonder Yeah, yeah. It's definitely worth interrupting. I guess sometimes I just think like, oh, that's a very easy to spell for me. So even if the cast goes off, it's really not a big deal. Oh, and another thing that I'm surprised this tank did not do, as a demon hunter, you can jump the severing slice. You can jump away from it. Um, the main thing about that is just that nobody can be standing in the direction you want to jump away from. So that's usually not a problem for the most part. People are usually standing, I don't know, facing the mob in the same direction, if you know what I mean. So especially ranged, I think it's the main problem with ranged, making sure that they're not standing in the way, but you should be able to jump every single slice and take no damage from it. But maybe he was lazy, maybe he didn't care. I feel like he should know something like that if you're doing 20s, but who cares? I'm pretty sure we did not end up using heroism on this boss, but I guess I just want to see. Usually it's 1, 2, and 4 for heroism in this dungeon. Honestly, for me personally, if I see someone standing in my balls, I'm not moving for them. If they get hit by it, then that's their fault. Uh, I personally think it's best if people just fucking stand still and other people move. I know that means like more people might be moving, but I just feel like that expectation isn't really that hard. Also, I have I just personally shit, I'm like losing my train of thought. I like to move at the last second because I want to make sure that I do it during GCDs. So I'm not losing DPS or I'm not losing cast time by moving constantly because even as a healer, you know, making sure that you're getting the most out of all your globals is very important because there's a lot of AoE healing going on. Oh, we did use hero for this boss. I didn't even notice, I think. Um, how do I feel about that? I don't know. I guess it's okay since you're pretty much only using... I don't know, actually. Maybe the timer is too tight. Because, well, nah, I don't know. I'm kind of like lost right now. Because, let's see. We used hero, say, a minute ago. So that's about like 12-ish minutes left on timer. So that means by the time it's back up again, you would have 2 minutes left of the dungeon, which I think is enough time to do the last boss, but still kind of tight. So, well, the second boss is obviously not a problem without heroism, but yeah, interesting. No wonder nobody said anything about hero not being used. I will say though that in these groups that don't have rogue for utility, it sucks. DPS lost from not being able to pot, and Shroud is just really good, actually. There's so many areas you can get by, and it's nice too because you can have stuff like maybe another thing that I should have done here, that I didn't think about. Somebody did this with me in a Sanguine, and I think he just tried it randomly out of the blue. For the next 3 mobs, you can Mind Soothe them and then grip someone over where they're not going to aggro. It sounds crazy when I say it now because I feel like when you get gripped across, you like literally fly in front of their faces. But it worked in that one run that I did. And actually, I can include a clip of it. I should still have the clip somewhere on my stream. So I'll include a clip of it and show you guys because it's a neat trick. And if there are situations like this where you need to get across and you don't have an invis pot, then if you have a priest in the group, then it's nice to not need to die and spend time rezzing because, yeah, if you think about it, dying and rezzing is it's time wasted. That's not a joke. A lot of people think it's no big deal, but it is. If you ever have a run where you're like 14 seconds, 15 seconds over, that is kind of like a death plus a res because death is 5 seconds and then a res is however many 8-second cast. So that's 13 seconds by itself. This hallway, obviously everyone hates. You need to make sure that you use your cooldowns loosely. Basically, at the start of the pull, you want to use the big ones like barrier or pain suppression so they get the most value. And using Rapture early on so you can get the cooldown back up is also good. Normally, getting a drink off in this hallway with Meld shouldn't be that bad, but yeah, it just sucks. And as usual, I didn't get any innervates here. When I do play Shadow, though, for this hallway, I don't AoE as much because I know as a healer this hallway fucking blows. So the faster you phase her, the faster this whole gauntlet is. So even though there's like a million things that I can be spamming my AoE on, I mean it's kind of, it really depends, right? If I AoE the mobs down faster, the tank will take less damage. But I also think it depends on the classes, really. Because for me, as Shadow, when I have my cooldowns up, obviously, I do a ton of single target damage. So why would I spend that time AoEing the mobs when maybe the 2 other classes that I'm with could probably deal with the trash and I can focus on getting the boss down faster? Because the few times that I have done a higher-ish key of Sanguine as Shadow, these gauntlet hallway areas just feel really fast whenever I have my cooldowns up. And it feels great to phase the boss fast instead of just padding my numbers and AoEing everything. Like imagine the very first pull, usually very first pull, I have Void Eruption and PI up. Imagine if I spent the entire time of my Void Eruption spamming Searing Nightmare. I feel like that's a fucking waste when I could be keeping a Void Bolt on Kale and keeping DP on Kale and just spamming doing, I don't know, 10k plus DPS. Like, she phases really fast. And it's also not tyrannical, so I'd imagine that phasing her during this hallway is easier to do so. I think even if healing kind of blows for a short while, I would rather that than just prolong it by just spamming AoE. But it's hard for me to tell what other people are doing during this hallway whenever I'm healing. I wouldn't know unless I am actually talking to the DPS as like a friend and we're strategizing, because whenever I play Shadow and I run with people, like even two other people that I know, I will tell them like, I'm popping my fucking cooldowns here, and I can just tell as I'm doing it. The phasing just feels so much faster. One major important thing here is to spread out, because you can see that she jumps and bleeds you every once in a while, and if people are standing right next to each other, then she will bleed multiple people at once. And since this hallway already fucking blows, you want to minimize damage. Yeah, see, she just jumped and bled warrior and the tank. Obviously, for melee, that will be harder for you to spread out for, but for ranged, I don't think there's any excuse for that. Also, if you are dwarf, you should remove the bleed with your fucking racial. This part was really fucking annoying to me. I think I actually think the volcanic broke me out of my heal, because there was no spiteful on me. I just like got out of combat, or I stopped drinking mainly. Oh, actually, something I want to comment on that some people have done before is using heroism on the hallway. I'm not sure how I feel about that, actually. If it's fortified, it's probably makes sense to do so. Yeah, I think obviously something like that would be good to do if you trust if you trust your group to do mechanics, because last boss can be difficult to heal if people are not managing the bleed properly in the jump. But if everyone is taking the bleed and yeah, like if every time she jumps she's hitting, usually she hits two people with the bleed. If that is constantly being applied, then healing becomes very, very difficult. But something that I did not actually realize until recently, that I don't know, I'm slow to know this, but if you just use a movement speed boost, you can dodge the blade. I thought that you would need something fancy like blink, because on my mage I can pretty much dodge every single bleed. At times, yes, it can be difficult because they have the images up, so you have to kind of be good about where you're blinking into, so you're not blinking into those images. But I don't know. I would say blinking into the image is better than taking the bleed, because bleed damage overall probably does more damage to you than just eating a image. But yeah, I didn't think that I would be able to dodge it on priest, but it takes some practice, I guess, to predict, because I don't have any timers to know when she's gonna start dashing at people. Like, she applies the debuff, so you know who's gonna get it, and then you kind of just have to watch her character and see when will she start dashing, because I don't know, maybe it's something like the last boss in HOA, where you pretty much just need to make sure you're moving. Wait, do I dodge it here? Oh, I did, but that was weird. Oh, yeah, it's probably just that she arrives at the location, pauses. Oh, no. Yeah, I think it's varied. Sometimes she pauses for long enough for you to just walk out of it, which is what I think happened to me. But there are definitely times where she does not do that. And also another thing, I pretty much as ranged on any character, like I don't know if no, I have not posted a video on my mage, but like I will always generally stand on the outskirts of this platform. Because if you're targeted, yeah, see, look, I just dodged it. If you're targeted with the dash, you do not want to be standing in melee range because you can apply a bleed to like 3 fucking people, which is terrible. Every time she jumps, she should either apply it to you or nobody else if you're successfully dodging it. Managing that bleed is super important. That time, I think it was like on the tank or something. Like I should, oh, I filed it off. I think, yes, I did. Oh, never mind, never mind. I was about to say, I think I got the Boomy killed because if I place my barrier, well, no, that's also why whenever I drop barrier, I wait until the main one got dropped first because people can easily mistaken my barrier for the thing, and then they won't be in it, so then they get knocked back. And actually, for the Boomy there, I was a little surprised that my grip wasn't in range because I kind of knew that he was getting knocked off, and I think I was like, you know, when people get knocked off from stuff like this, they're in the air for a while, which means that they're not really LOSing your leap. I can just grab him, but I guess he fell faster than I expected, so kind of just let him die.